Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're going to jump in and take a look at phase 2 of the Trick or Treat Lane project. This is still section 1, but tutorial number 2, I've got almost all the painting done. I've been busy over the last few days trying to get some of the detail work done, not all of it, but some of it. And so what I want to do is show you where we're at, and then today what we're going to do after you see the progress is we're going to take everything off of the display base. We're going to hot glue everything together, at least the two base pieces together. We're going to take the hot wire foam factory tools and we're going to cut out the holes for the lights. We're going to tunnel the back of it to get all those into one place and ready for the display. And then we're going to start hot gluing down everything else and then putting the grass on. And we're going to try to finish this one up today, even as far as all the little small details as I see them now. Anyway, that's the plan. So with that, let's jump off the tripod real quick and show you what it looks like before we start. Okay, you can see quite a bit of progress has been made, and so we'll kind of start talking about everything. Nothing's glued down right now, so it's just all kind of sitting there, but I wanted you to be able to see it and then talk a little bit about it as we go through and look at it. So obviously the curb has been painted, and you guys have seen me do this before. To paint the curb really is, it's all black to begin with, just like this here, and that was all spray paint. Then we do a coat of dark gray, much lighter dry brush of light gray, and then a little touch of white dry brush just for some of the highlights. You can kind of see that as it starts to stand out a little bit. And then you'll notice the road is certainly a lot more dirty than the last time you saw it. And there's obviously a reason behind that. It looked too new. And so we've got to get the road to start looking a little more road-like, a little more used. And so the way that I do that, now the road is stuck down. I went ahead and peeled the backing off and stuck it down. It's just a peel and stick, and it lays right there. It's perfectly cut to both ends, and so we got that going for us. But the way I do this is I take playground sand. You can either get that from a natural playground, or you can buy that at a hardware store. I've done both. The bucket that I've got now is from a hardware store, and so I just took a little bit of the sand in a red Solo cup, and I sprinkled it all across this roadway. And then I took a big, thick, older paintbrush. First I took my hands and kind of ground it down in there pretty good, and got the sand all down into the road. And then I took the paintbrush and swept it all off. And then stood back and looked, and you can see areas that are missed and areas that are a little bit lighter than others, and that's fine. That's kind of how you want it to look. And then to get the spots in the road, the way that I do it is I have a bottle of glue water mixture that I keep ready to go pretty much at all times, and I put that on a pretty fine, not a real fine spray, but more of a shooting type spray. I stood back going across the angle here, so kind of standing, going like this, looking at it, and was just basically squeezing just a couple of little shots out, and that would fall onto this platform, because I didn't want to get it into any kind of uniform direction or make it look like it was too patternized or anything. It needs to look sporadic and not uniform at all. And so that's the way that I chose to do that. And then I just let it sit out and dry for 15 or 20 minutes, and that was it. So that is all that really happened or needed to happen to the bottom base, okay? Then we jump up to the top base, okay? So I was able to paint everything here. Interesting, and I'll show you how we did this. These are little flower pots. They're wooden flower pots that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. And they've got some little flowers in them that I also picked up from Hobby Lobby. They're in the wood section. They come as just a wood color. Let me kind of take you back here. Don't mind everything here, but we've got, there they are. They come in a package like this back in the wood section. You can kind of see those there, okay? And so they're not They're not too awfully expensive either. I think you get 6 or 8 of them for, I'm trying to get that, it was at $1.50 or so there. So, and I was going to use those for the Haunted Mansion on the post, but they turned out to be a little too big. And then you can buy these flowers in the train section of Hobby Lobby. And so I've had these for a long time for other projects. And so basically I took one of these and painted it black, and then painted it sort of an antique white, and then took a black wash and just kind of washed it to give it that weathered look, and then stuffed one of those down in it. And that is what you now see sitting up here. There's one on either side. So I'll get the camera to come around here a minute and focus. So you can kind of see that one sitting there, and then this one kind of sitting here. And they do look old and weathered. So that's been done. These are obviously painted the brick color, and a little bit of highlight. You can see right on the edge of the bricks, a little bit of the white highlight on either side to kind of make them pop a little bit. And there's going to be some moss and flowers and plants and things in each of these as we get a little bit farther along today. And then we've cut the all the brickwork around the clock. And so that's all got to be hot glued down. And I think what I'm going to do here, I had a couple of good suggestions. Somebody suggested that I put water around that, and I think that's an amazing idea. And I think doing a resin pour like that would look really good. The problem is I would have to coat everything in a resin will eat through foam. So I'd have to hot glue everything down and then paint some sort of a texture on there with the rock hard water putty that I use, the Durham's water putty. It's just a lot of work, and so yeah, you would see a little bit of water looking in there, but I've decided, while that is a great idea, I'm going to forego that, and we're going to put some yellow and purple bushes, like flower type. It's moss that you pick up at the craft store, kind of alternating in between there, and I think that'll add to the colors around and add to the lights or the trees, and I think that'll make it look even more festive than water. Water is a great idea. It's just I'm not going to do it for this particular display. It's just too small for me to worry with that. And there's other ways to do water, but why would you want to do water any other way than resin or the toilet paper water method, which I guess you could do, but then it would be flat and it would look kind of odd. So anyway, there's going to be some shrubbery and foliage going in there instead of the water. But keep those ideas coming. I love hearing them. They make me think completely outside the box, and I love that. And then you can see the concrete detail, or at least maybe you can see the concrete detail in the pattern here. So the last time you saw it was just a piece of pink styrofoam, and then I'd use the tinfoil rolling method to kind of roll along the foam and get it to look textured. And so that's what we did. And then painting it, I noticed that it didn't quite look enough like concrete. So I tried something that I absolutely love. So I picked up several brushes like this for crafting that you can get metal. This is just a real stiff nylon bristled brush. It's used for scraping off rust or detailing. And so essentially, no kidding, what I did, and this was after it was painted. So I did the tinfoil rolling technique, and then I painted it. And the way I painted it, it was all black, the spray paint. Then the same methodology as the sidewalks or this curb. It was a darker gray, then a lighter gray, and then some dry brushing of some little white or kind of a antique white into it. And it started to look like this. And it didn't look great at that point either. And so then I decided to use some sponges, some crafting sponges, to kind of put a dark wash over it. Because anytime I used a paintbrush, you would see the streaks. Now, I think they would have dried out where you wouldn't have seen them, but I didn't want to take that chance. And so I would just wiped all that off and then took a sponge and kind of sponged on, and that seemed to work pretty well. So I like that. But what I started to realize is if you really want the concrete texture look, which I think this looks really good now. I think it looks incredible its likeness to concrete. And so the way I achieved that was this brush. And honest to goodness, all I did was just start tapping it just like you're seeing me do here. And that started putting that texture down. And because the black was painted underneath all the gray, if it was chipping away any of the top two layers, the grays, you're going to get the black. And then I added another black wash to it with the sponges to make that stand out a little bit more. So you're constantly learning in this hobby. I know I am constantly learning in this hobby. And if you ever get to the point where you're not learning, then it's probably time to go do something different, or to get another YouTube channel going and start teaching me how to do this stuff. That'd be great, because I'm always learning something new every time I do this. So just doing this all along through here really helped to put that concrete texture in there. And when you step back, and especially in the light, the further away you get, the more obviously it looks good. But the thing that I like is you can get up close, pretty close, even down low, and it looks kind of like concrete. I mean, it's got a pretty good resemblance. So very pleased with discovering that a brush like this, a very stiff old hard bristled brush, either nylon or you could use metal, I suppose. And by just lightly tapping, it gets you that concrete look. Now that took a while, but you can see that it looks pretty good. And then onto the bricks, obviously I use the same brush to kind of go along those bricks. You can kind of see them. I don't know that I like it too much on the front. I mean, it looks okay, but those are small details that you'll see, but not really see, if that makes sense. And so that's really where we've left it. Now, a couple of things behind the scenes, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see. I'll try to get the camera over here. I did trace out behind the backs of the buildings, and you can kind of see behind this tree over here some little dashed lines. That's my signal of where the grass is going to come up to. I don't want it to come up into the too far into the buildings. You can really kind of see the dashed line back here. And that's an indicator for me that that's where the grass, just beyond that line, just towards us in the camera, so you won't see the line. And then same thing over here, you can kind of see that that's done over there, so we can see where the grass is going to go. And I did that all around the buildings. And then I also traced around the buildings in the back, so I don't want to put grass down on the buildings where the buildings are going to go, because if I do that, then half the building would be on grass and half would not, and it would sit funny, and I don't want that. So no grass is going to be under the buildings on this particular display base. So hopefully that makes sense. That's where we're at. A lot of work has gone into this, and hopefully you can tell that. But again, I don't think you really missed much. The stairs were already cut. We talked about that. They're still not glued. They were painted the same way, and did the wash the same way with a small paintbrush and a sponge, and just kind of let those dry. So all that was done exactly the same way, every bit of it. And so with that, we're going to then get some of this stuff, actually all of this stuff, off of here, and then we're going to prepare our hot glue gun, and we're going to glue this base to this base as the first step, and then we're going to start cutting some holes. So let me get everything set up, and we'll be right back. Okay, you can see I've got both pieces apart now, and I'm going to start the hot glue process. My glue gun is going out, so I've tried to replace it with this one. This is not the right one, so I'm going to experiment with this one. The other one is on order, and it should be here within the next week or so. But until then, we're going to start gluing along the edges and then around the middle to try to get this to stick. It doesn't have to be a lot, but we want it to be some. Okay, everything's glued down there, and that should be okay. Now we're ready to start our cutting out our holes for our light cables. We'll start that next. Okay, so I've got my hot wire foam tool here, and we're going to be cutting over our sink. And the reason we're going to be doing that is so we can go straight down through without worrying about hitting anything. And we'll get that started here. So let's take our first hole here. We're going to come straight down. We're going to make it big enough to put a light cable through, at least the plug in of the light cable. Okay, so those are the holes that are cut in the foam to run light cords through. Now we need to switch out the tool and start bringing everything towards the back. Okay, so now we've got it setting back upright, and you can see each individual hole where the lights are going to go. Right, doesn't look too awful bad. And then when we bring it up like this, you can then see the tunnels, everything kind of leading right to the back of the display, and that's where everything will meet up. Going in that direction. So that's what that's looking like. Okay, so far we've hot glued everything down and it looks pretty good. Again, my hot glue gun broke right in the middle of all this, so I had to run out and try to get another one. It's the wrong type. Got another one on order. You can't make this stuff up, folks. It's just, it happens, right? But I think we're making do. And then you saw me take the Hot Wire Foam Factory tools, the hot straight knife, and cut 5 or 6 holes into the base for the light cords. You saw me tunnel those to the back, and all the cords are going to go out the back. So on the piece that's opposite of this, they'll come out the back, which will be facing this. All the cords will come out together and then down into a whole area inside of the table, which they're going to be displayed on. So all the cords should be hidden out of sight. So now what's going to happen is I got to take the other glue gun, or the new glue gun, which gets really, really hot, and I've got to start doing a lot of the detail work. I got to do the curb, the stairs, the bricks around everything. And so what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to kind of set the camera up and work. Power fluctuation apparently just happened, so it's only 111 today. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the power grid's starting to disintegrate here in the Phoenix area, who knows. But irrespective of that, we're going to just set the camera up and let it run while I do this. It's going to be hard for me to talk, and I've got to put a lot of attention into where this glue goes, because these are small. And if you mess this up, then I've messed up the whole platform. So hopefully you'll understand. You'll get to see sort of from the side. So that's what's happening, and that's what we're doing next. Okay, I think everything is set up. I've got a couple little things to clean up with some tweezers, but I think everything is glued, and now we'll be ready to do the grass. Well, hopefully all of that made sense. Again, the gluing is the hard, critical part, especially with little components like that. You got to really take your time and get close, and it's hard to kind of do everything at once. So hopefully you were able to see enough to know that you got to take your time and be careful. The stairs weren't perfect, so I've got to fix a little spot or so on the stairs. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with the way the gluing turned out, especially the clock in that area there. And I'll show you that as we come off the tripod, to kind of wedge the hole where the cord's going to go down right in between the back brick and the pedestal where the clock's going to sit on. It worked out incredibly well, I think. It looks good, so we'll see if it's functional. But so what we need to do now is finish decorating with the little things that make it pop, right? We've got to put grass in the areas that need grass. We've got to put flowers and things in the flower beds and around the clock. And so I don't know exactly what I'm going to do first, either the detailing or the grass. Irrespective of that, I want to show you everything that I have for the detailing, okay? That way, whatever I decide to use, you will have seen it all, and then you can determine if you want this in your arsenal like it's in my arsenal. The first thing I've got we may or may not use is this regular moss. I got this. This is just the kind of the crunchy kind that you pull apart and sort of makes a mess. But I got this at it's Ashland, so I got it at Michael's many years ago, a few years ago anyway. I haven't opened it, haven't had a chance to use it for really anything. So I may try to put it down in some of the flower bedding here just to make it look a little more natural. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I do have that in my arsenal. I also have different colored packets of moss. So I've got a green color, and you've seen this before in the craft stores. I've got a yellow color, okay, and I've got a purple color. So I think what I'm going to do is take at least the yellow and the purple and kind of alternate those in the clock area as far as flowers go, shrubs, bushes, whatever, from more of a Halloween fall perspective in that. So I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to use in that, okay? Then I've got, you've seen these before. These are just the little palette of flowers. So these can go in flower pots or wherever you'd like to put them with just a couple of drops of either tacky glue or hot glue, depending on where you're going to put them. And then also in my arsenal, I've got a little bucket of just about everything. And so I picked these up just the other day at Michael's. These are new. They're little bushes. They've got little stems on them. I think they'd be pretty good size to put in to the flower beds or somewhere like that. Maybe not here, but certainly in this build somewhere, Trick or Treat Lane, the whole 4-piece section. These will go somewhere. So I picked those up. These are, I think they're like $7. So they're a little on the spendy. They're a lot on the spendy side, quite honestly, but you have a 20% off coupon or something like that, brings the price down a little bit and makes it a little bit more easy to purchase. We also grabbed a couple of picks. These are, now I've just plucked these off the picks. The picks are in the crafting room somewhere, but I plucked these off because, as you can see, they kind of almost look like, and I'm trying to get the camera to focus here, they almost look like little flowers, right? And so I think especially these here. So I can use those in flower beds somewhere. We also picked up different types of other types of foliage. This is another, just off of a bunch of flowers. You can see the end there where it attaches. So there's white, we've got yellow, we've got red, we've got 2 different shades of purple. Okay, all off the same bunch. So you've probably seen those in Michael's before. Okay, and so we've got all those, and the way I plan on doing that is not certainly this entire thing, but only what will be seen out of the flower pot. So maybe cut it, maybe like that, or maybe a little bit further up or down. I know that's so hard to focus, I apologize, but you kind of get the idea of the whole thing won't be in there, maybe something like that, along those lines. So those are some of the things that I have in my arsenal to help decorate the whole base and to kind of make it not really over the top, but the details, the little details like that start to really mess with people's minds. When you see you see the first of the, you walk in, you see the display, you're like, oh, that's really, really cool. But then the more you look, like the textured concrete, the flower pots, the flowers, the alternating colors of bushes around the clock, it's the little details like that that really take your village to the next level and make people really step back and go, wow, that is so incredibly detailed. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. That's what I try to do on every build. Some are more successful than others. But you saw how it turned out on the Haunted Mansion. Pretty detailed, looks pretty good. So we're trying to do the same type of work here, if that makes sense. So let me get some of this stuff cleaned up, rearrange my workspace, and then we're either going to start, we'll probably start in here and do the detailing with the flower pots. And then I'm going to go outside, and again, it is 112 now outside, and so I'm not going to take the camera, it'll melt, and I'm just going to go out there for the grass. You've seen me do that before. It's basically white PVA glue in the areas that need grass, put the moss down, smash it down, let it dry, and then the glue water mixture over it as it's starting to as soon as you're done, then you just let that sit and dry overnight. When I come up, get this out tomorrow sometime, it'll be crunchy and hard, and it'll be done. And this base will be, at that point, we hope, finished. So let me rearrange, and then we'll get into detailing with some of the accessories I just showed you. Okay, I've got everything kind of set up the way that I'd like it, and so I've got some tweezers here. I'm going to use tacky glue to kind of spread around this area to start the process. I'm going to put quite a bit. May use a paintbrush to kind of spread it out a little bit. And then once I get that done, just a small paintbrush to spread it out a little bit. And then once I get that done, we're just going to alternate with yellow and purple and yellow and purple and yellow and purple all the way around. Okay, so with these, I forgot I also have the almost like shrubs, especially if you bring them close together. And so I think what I'm going to do here is probably put 2 shrubs on either side, just to, so you can kind of see what I'm looking like here, just to visualize it before we do this. But something like that. Okay, so I went outside and I put the grass on with the white PVA glue, put the grass down, and let it dry in the garage where it was just essentially baking for a few hours. It's not completely done. It still has to have the glue water mixture on it, but I think it's done enough to have brought it back in the house and set everything up. And I'll tell you, the wires, kind of running the wires and everything, made it so much easier going underneath the base, just putting the wires up through and plugging the lights in made it a lot simpler. I'll typically take tape or floral pins and secure the cords up in there a little bit so they don't sag. And so that takes a little bit of getting used to, but pretty easy nonetheless. And so I've hidden the cords with a backdrop. So when you see it, there'll be a backdrop behind it just for aesthetics. There will be no backdrop behind it when it's all finished, because it'll all the cords and everything will just be run straight down through the center of 2 tables, kind of pushed close together. And you'll never see them. They'll be in the center of that big section on 2 very large surge protectors. So that'll all be taken care of by itself. So when you see it tonight, it's all lit up. It's so I've made another decision, and I know you want to see it, and we're going to get to it right here in a moment. But I also made another decision on what kind of people are we going to outfit our village with. And I told you earlier that the roads are going to be a much narrower fit just because of the crowdedness and the small space that I've really got to work with. So I've elected to use mostly Limax figures like I did on my first trick or treat lane. And so you'll see this outfitted with a whole bunch of different little Limax figures. And I think they are more size appropriate anyway. They're not nearly as detailed. They all could use a paint job. But I think you'll see the difference in size, and I think it looks really, pretty good. So we'll take a look at it first with the lights on, and I'll talk about it. Then I'll dim the lights like it would be set up for Halloween, and you'll get to see an early version of that as well. So with that, let's jump in and take a look. Okay, so here you can see how it's starting to come together and how it's starting to look, and I think once it's outfitted with the people, it almost it just really comes to life. And then you can see the obviously the lights on in the buildings, which look a lot better at night. But let me try to get us a little bit closer here, so you can kind of see the curb and how that looks up into the street, and then you can see the bushes there with the little potted plants or the potted flowers. I think those are looking pretty good. Not too bad there, as you can see. And then as we get up into the buildings, obviously this is the Axel's costume shop, and it's lit up in its typical orange. It looks really, really good at night. And now you can start to see some of the grass in between the buildings. And so they come up a little bit. I may end up putting a little bit of curb work back there, maybe. I'm not 100% sure yet. And you can kind of see the same thing back here where the grass is starting to come in all the way through the back. And then again, over in between these two buildings there. So again, I may put curbing there, I may not. Some of the trees kind of get in the way of that and maybe prevent that. So I'm not sure. I do like the way that I say fountain, the planter around the clock looks. It's got a very Harry Potter theme to me for some reason. I guess that's the orange and purple. I don't know what house that would be. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you would know. But that's what that kind of looks like to me. So it still looks good. And then as we zoom back out, you can see that everything looks, just really, really good. And the lower you get angle-wise to see the houses and the street and everything, it just looks really, really quaint that you could kind of walk through this little marketplace and take part in the festivities, and you got the pet store, and I don't know, it's very nostalgic feeling. I love the backdrop. I wish I had that all the way around the village. And I may try to do something around the back of the village like that. I'm not 100% sure yet. I guess we'll see as we get a little bit closer. But that is how this piece is going to end. This is it in a nutshell. This is as good as this one is going to get. I've got to put some glue water mixture onto the grass and get that all crunchy, some glue water mixture around the clock, and then we're going to call it done. And if you can see behind the buildings and behind the facade, so this is the end that's going to butt up to the next piece. And we'll talk about that here in a moment, but it's going to butt up right there. The grass will fall, straight in, and everything will line up and just match. Hopefully, just like it's supposed to. I guess we will see. But that's how this is lining up to come together. And yeah, I think it looks pretty good so far. It's not too bad at all. So there you have it. Okay, so now I've readjusted the lights. The lights in the kitchen are basically off, and so this is how this would look set up at night. It's about the same. I mean, obviously nothing's changed. I love the ambience of the light splashing out onto the concrete there. Everything looks very, very nostalgic to me. Just a very, very cool place. It's pretty bright, quite honestly, with the whole little city center kind of lit up and functioning like it is. So very, very cool. It looks really, really good. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this as much as I am enjoying the build. And yeah, we're gonna move on to our next piece. Well, that gives you a much closer look at section 1 out of 4 of Trick or Treat Lane display that we're currently in the progress of building. Hopefully you're as excited as I am to say this one is virtually complete. We've just a few little things to tighten up. We've got a little bit of detail work. We've got to do the glue water mixture on the grass. But for the most part, this one is going to sit just the way it sits right now. It's done. And we're going to move on to the next thing. And so what is the next thing that we're going to move on to? Well, it's going to be the section number 2, which is going to be the start of the Trick or Treat Lane houses themselves. It's going to kind of butt up next to the downtown area and start the neighborhood of where all the Trick or Treat houses are located. There's going to be 2 of those. And so we're going to get started on the first one here in a day or 2. I've got to get some stuff cut and get everything ready. And then when you see it, it'll be sort of prefabbed and we'll just take it from there. But hopefully you like this one. I think it's amazing. I like the Limax figures in it, quite honestly. It's very nostalgic to me. So, hey, do me a favor, if you have comments or questions or anything on this particular build, please leave those below. I'll get to every one of them, or at least I'll try to get to every one of them and answer your questions. And like always, if you've liked this video, make sure you click the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. You're going to get notified, especially if you click that bell icon, on every new video that comes out. So you don't have to guess. You know when the next video is coming out. And again, thanks for the folks doing the super thanks. It means so much. You don't have to do it. I certainly do appreciate it. It goes right back into doing things like hot glue guns that crap out on you and things like that. So much appreciated. Thank you so much for supporting me and supporting the channel. So until we talk again next time here in a couple days, take care of yourselves. We'll talk again real soon.